So I'm going to be talking about how we fix this mess. And by this mess, I mean the British economy, which is no easy thing. And obviously on this podcast, we've talked a great deal about all the different ways in which Britain is declining and getting worse. And myself, Harrison and Rupert Lowe have had a stab at fixing this, along with the help of an economist who did some of the numbers for us. And this is it. This is Restore Britain's policy paper called The Wealth of Our Nation. And this is our outlining our economic philosophy. So there's much more. It's meant to be a sort of bedrock in which other papers follow and have connective tissue to. But this gives you a rough impression of what we want to do to actually fix the country. And this has been a product of a lot of work and a lot of thought, and I know that Rupert was very enthusiastic to get this out, and I had many long conversations with him, and as did Harrison, trying to figure out exactly how we're going to go about this. But I can assure you that a lot of care has gone into it, and Rupert does really care about the state of the economy. Yep. And I suppose what I'm going to read first is our sort of solutions, and then I'm going to go backwards to our diagnosis of the problem, because I think it's much easier to explain those things after the fact. But just to give you a rough idea, our GDP per capita is, our public debt is almost to that level now. I think it's at about 95%. So we've got a lot of debt. Our services are getting worse. It's very difficult for young people to get started in their careers or buy a house and start a family, which is a ticking demographic time bomb in and of itself.
As if we don't have enough of those.
Student loans are weighing down many people. They take a large chunk out of people's salaries, and there's levels of interest capped at 6%. And I was able to figure out that actually, unless you're earning over £61,800 a year, you're only covering the interest on your student loans, which is only 1 in 10 people in the UK are earning above that threshold. Yeah. And that's going to be heavily weighted to people later in their careers. Yeah.
There's actually a great article in Islander 6 from Professor Michael Hudson, who talks about, look, the way things are, we're going to have some sort of debt forgiveness jubilee like they used to in ancient Mesopotamia and ancient Greece.
That takes us on quite nicely. Yeah. If I can even find the magazine behind my laptop. Islander magazine, you should buy it. It's got all sorts of insightful things, like that article you just mentioned.
Like, I read this article with Michael Hudson. I was just like, I'd never even thought about it this way. But basically, this is kind of the right-wing solution, which is essentially debt forgiveness. Because if you think about the student loans are a particularly great example, right? Student loans are just loans that you take out, and the student loan company is owned by the government. Mm-hmm. So it's like, right, so you're just in debt to the government at a 6% interest rate. So unless you're earning really well in Britain, which almost no one is, you're never paying this off.
Well, it's basically a graduate tax in name only, right?
Exactly. And so
presented to you, or it used to be, as like a very low interest loan. It's not actually that low over time, and it's gone up.
Well, they've had to introduce caps because of how much inflation there's been. Yes. And so it's difficult to keep up because...
And also like the lack of wage growth in Britain compared to everything else, compared to inflation, all this sort of stuff. So it's genuinely, at some point, we will want to think about just mass student loan forgiveness, because it's just a debt owed to the government. Like it's not owed to like some private entity or something.
There was also a myth that it wipes at a certain point. We look and it's like when you're 60 or something.
It wipes for your once you've finished your working life. Yeah. So okay, great. But anyway.
So I'm going to start by just reading some of it, if you'll humour me, and then I'll explain the thinking behind it. So we criticised the Bank of England's post-1997 independence, thank you, Tony, and subsequent record, particularly the quantitative easing programme, which, if you're not familiar, means printing more money, which is a tax by other means, basically. Yep. Stealing from people who...
That's what causes inflation.
It is, yeah. Of course it is. That fueled asset inflation, as we say, intergenerational unfairness in housing, and the post-COVID inflation peak of 11.1%, which is insane.
In a single year.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
And that compounds on like the, 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, 9, 10, like on the other side.
While maintaining our unequivocal commitment in price stability as currently defined, our proposals include nominating new members of the Monetary Policy Committee who are committed to stability. So that means not infinite money printing. Requiring explicit authorization from the Chancellor of the Exchequer for any monetary expansion. So that brings the Bank of England under some degree of political control, but only in so much as, no, you can't print more money.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, there's no accountability for the Bank of England, as Liz Truss discovered to her chagrin.
What's odd is I've spoken to people at the Bank of England who didn't understand the quantitative easing policy. So I'm yet to, I mean, it's way beyond my pay grade, but I've yet to understand what they were up to there.
And also, the Bank of England...
Bailey, wasn't it?
The Bank of England can make really outlandish predictions about things. Like they said that there would be deflation coming out of lockdown. And of course...
Where was it?
Yeah, it was the complete opposite.
Why would you even think that?
They're independent, but as with many independent things, that just means beyond accountability. And in my opinion, having more restrictions on this through politics is the way you solve this.
I mean, what you want, ideally, is a specific minister who is directly the person the bank is accountable to, who we can replace if we don't like them.
Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Historically, it was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Whoever it is, it doesn't really matter who the minister is, as long as, if there's a government that has a Rachel Reeves in charge, we could at least, come the election, change that. But at the moment, there's just nothing you can do to affect the Bank of England's policy.
Well, it's sort of strange that New Labour wanted to outsource so many things to quangos and other bodies. It's like, isn't this going to affect you at some point? And now you find that Keir Starmer complained that the levers didn't do anything.
Yeah, but remember, the point is to actually make the system essentially autonomous and liberate it from democratic.
Then future Labour governments are frustrated by it as well.
Don't worry, we take both barrels to the quangos.
Obviously, there should just be.
So, for fiscal policy, we have written, fiscal stability constitutes the cornerstone of our approach, balancing the budget and gradually reducing the debt to GDP ratio. Because, of course, at the minute, £1 of every £10 spent by the government is spent on servicing our interest on our debt. Not even the debt itself. And if you were running that in your own household, you'd think, okay, I'm in a lot of trouble.
You've got a student loan.
Yeah.
It'd be like I've had girlfriends like that. I'd be like, it's like a red flag. It's like you're trying to pay the debt on your credit cards. It's a nightmare. And that's what we're like as a country. We're like a mad shopping addicted person who just got paying 27% on their credit card.
Did you see the other day that we're borrowing £4,000 a second?
Yep.
Really?
I know, right? When you say it like that, it's like, oh, shit.
The only positive William Clouston said to me is that we have low corporate and household debt, which apparently is an opportunity that we have, because actually corporations have got low debt because they're like, hang on, we've got all this money. And
there's a different standard for corporations. If we applied the standards for corporations to ourselves, then the government would be breaking its own laws multiple times over. Just on the debt alone, we don't have public sector pensions on the balance sheet of our public debt. So that is another at least couple of trillion. I think it's between 1.6 to 2.2. But Rupert said to me, because he's on the accounts committee, that it could be as much as 3 to 5.5 trillion in public sector pensions, which would basically double our national debt, if not more.
And have Restore come out and said they would scrap the triple lock? I think I saw that.
We have. We'll get to that, don't worry.
Okay, sorry. You've got 64 pages, you better pick up the pace.
I'm not going through all of them, don't worry. It's a whistle-stop tour, but, as Rupert likes saying, read the paper.
You actually read it, Nick. Sorry, carry on.
We aim to claw back as much of the 300 billion in excess post-2019, that you got Boris to thank for that, spending through incremental, fully funded adjustments. So the idea is we incrementally adjust things, and as we make cuts, over time, we will then recycle the money into funding tax cuts. That's the idea. So that we're just returning things back to the taxpayer rather than swallowing up a larger and larger slice of the economy. We estimate total savings of around 178 billion by the end of the first parliament, approximately 2/3 of the post-2019 excess, because, of course, it takes time to undo it. This excess spending, I think, when Blair was in power in 97, the government was, about 35% of the economy. Now it's 45, if not more.
Yeah. So, but even if we only got half that, 85 billion or whatever it is, like 90 billion, that would be amazing.
Yeah,
be amazing.
it's still worth it no matter how much you're clawing back, right? So that's equivalent to about 35 billion per annum compound, or about 3% of the budget annually. Our guiding principles, as shall be seen in due course, are fiscal fairness, fiscal pragmatism, fiscal responsibility, and fiscal accountability. It's important to get that in there because our main argument here is that we're going to try and restore mainly intergenerational fairness, because we're trying to unshoulder the burden of the working population here, because at the minute both people who have pensions and people on benefits are isolated from some of the tumult of the economy, and it's normally the backs of the working people that have to shoulder this, and it's not really fair that people who are getting a free ride in the welfare system are isolated from the economic conditions, as we talk about here.
Yeah, because they can still vote.
Yeah.
This is just in case anyone was wondering. If you can vote, but the consequences of your votes never apply to you, you can see how this would go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Given our belief in the pressing need for intergenerational fairness, we will secure the state pension, but end the triple lock, linking it instead to CPI, which a big fuss was made in the mainstream media about this.
CPI just...
So it's basically locking it to interest. Right. So the triple lock, there are multiple different ways in which you track pension or
that's
sort
the
of
compound interest rate, is it?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, I don't know. I'm not an economist.
Sorry.
I don't know.
I've been embroiled in this for so long, I forget. So anyway, it carries on to say, as for how pensions operate...
Oh, sorry, consumer price inflation.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. As for how pensions operate, we would again pursue fairness by bringing our overly generous public sector schemes in line with those available in the private sector. So that's targeting all those civil servants who have these very lucrative pension packets, and they're not representative of how the private sector's pensions have grown, even though it is the private sector that's paying for them. Yeah. So we would freeze working age benefits at 25, 26 levels for the duration of the Parliament and restrict all working age benefits to British citizens only, with no access for temporary visa holders, those with indefinite leave to remain, or illegal migrants. We estimate saving 70 to 80 billion per annum, so per year, for the full range of working age benefits by the end of the first Parliament. So... Great. The philosophy here is that the tax thresholds have been frozen since 2022. Mm-hmm. So why have not the benefits thresholds been frozen as well?
Because if we're not bringing in any more tax,
exactly,
how can we pay out more? Which is why we're paying out more in benefits than we take in income tax at this point. Mm-hmm. And for anyone who doesn't know, like the British government spends 45p out of every pound that is made in this country. Like, it's actually kind of mad. Mm-hmm. The Quangos, they spend something like £600 billion a year, which is about half of the government's entire budget.
Currently, some 438 bodies spend 376 to 391 billion.
Yeah, but well, that's an estimate, right? But there are extra costs that it can be estimated higher. I've seen estimates all over the shop, but like it's about something like third to half of the entire government budget is spent on these arm's length bodies that have no oversight. Again, no oversight whatsoever. So you've no idea. Like, it's insane.
We're going to freeze their budgets, which will save about 8 billion per year, or around 40 to 45 billion by the end of the first Parliament, and review all of the bodies for abolition, scaling back, or full ministerial oversight.
Yeah, so I mean, doubtless a bunch of them will, with 400 plus of them need abolishing. But a bunch of them will just need to be brought back into government control, which just, again, the entire Blairite system is just evil.
So on healthcare, the National Health Service will remain free at the point of use for citizens and non-citizens, will be charged at market rates.
This is what Australia does, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And Rupert was quite insistent on having the specification that they're charged at the point of use, because the NHS is really bad at chasing people up.
Yeah, they've got no inclination to do so.
Mm-hmm. And private healthcare costs will become tax deductible, a measure we expect to prove fiscally positive through reducing NHS demand. We estimate a net annual benefit of 20 billion. So
how does that work? Because that sounds good to me, because I'm such a hypochondriac. I constantly use private health.
I've got private health.
I had insurance at GB's and I got used to it. And I don't want to burn the NHS, although people say it doesn't make sense because they use the same machines and things. But anyway, how does it work, the tax deductible private health? Because that was praised on GB News. I saw in a clip as well.
Anything you spend on private healthcare is a business expense.
Right, and you can just bill it at the end of your tax year.
We go into it in the dedicated section in more detail. That's
good.
But for the sake of brevity, I'll probably not bore.
That's
a great idea.
I'm on board with it.
There's a similar sort of thing with education as well. Yep. State education will remain free, with schools operating independently at the institutional level. And
private school fees becoming tax deductible. That'd be amazing. That would be amazing. That's all I spend my money on is my kids' education.
It's the most admirable thing you could probably spend your money on.
Well, that's why I do it.
Yeah.
You know? Like my dad was born in a caravan and now his grandchildren go to private schools. You know, so it's like, you know, that's
aspirational, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But yes, private school fees will become tax deductible and education will be exempt from VAT. We estimate an annual contribution of 10 billion. So on energy, we've already had an energy paper out, but just to mention, we will end net zero related public expenditures saving approximately 15 to 20 billion annually, and that is a very, very conservative estimate. It's probably going to be in the order of about 80 billion in reality.
God only knows what Miliband was spending.
But yeah, most of the estimates here for savings are going to be a lot more conservative. And so we wanted to make sure we're using the government's own data and we're taking things at face value. But the real situation, I think, would actually be able to save a lot more and do a lot more with it more quickly than this paper outlines. But we wanted to be as realistic as possible, I suppose.
I heard Andrew Neil quote 9 billion or something like that on net zero. Where's the 20 billion plus coming from then?
Well, I mean, there's an inordinate amount being done with net zero. There's obviously the subsidies, and then there's the regulation and the missed opportunity costs there, and all sorts of things that are being spent on it. I mean, the paper to look at is the energy paper for that one, which was more Harrison's thing than mine. It was written before I joined. So
basically, it's drill, baby, drill, and get rid of wind farms. Yeah. I'm guessing that's Trump. That's
it is, basically.
But Trump's not wrong about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, he's a businessman.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
China sells them, they don't use them. I thought that was a brilliant line.
Well, I mean, we've got all of that oil in the North Sea. Norway has a sovereign wealth fund that's worth about 2 trillion, and they fund their public pensions and everything through that. Why shouldn't we do the same?
Yeah, it's madness.
And then budget freeze will freeze most departments' budgets, excluding defence, health, and debt interest for 3 years, generating a further savings of 3 to 4 billion. So yes, we've also got tax proposals here. So before assuming any growth multiplier, tax cuts of approximately 155 billion per annum are proposed, which is quite a lot. They'll be matched to spending savings and introduced only when fully funded, with the ambition of reducing the overall tax burden. Our emphasis is on simplicity, so there are lots of silly little taxes that we're abolishing. Fairness, transparency, and predictability in growth. So income tax will raise the personal allowance to £16,000, so that's the amount you can earn before taxes applied.
People always talk about doing this, but it never happens. Even Reform seem to put it on the back burner.
Isn't it like £12,000 at the moment?
It's about 12.5 at the minute. So that's a significant increase, and that benefits everyone who pays taxes.
And extend the basic rate band to 100,000. See, that's good because we're so out of line with, say, America on that. It's unbelievable. Yeah. They can earn so much before getting done on income tax, and we can get to like 40,000. Then it's like destroy.
And ironically, this is more of the sort of like, you know, weirdly, you're kind of moving into the left's territory of tax the rich here as well. Because what this is doing is relieving a bunch of taxes on people who are not particularly rich.
Well, it's...
Yeah, but the left thinks they are rich. The left would hates anyone earning like 40 grand.
Yeah,
the people in the middle of the country, the middle class and working class people who earn a good wage are getting squeezed from both sides.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
And relenting some of that pressure is how you get the growth that has basically been squeezed out of the country. We have no growth, which is insane because we've got all of this technology, and it's just a mathematical truth that the more of something you have, be it money or whatever, the more rapidly it can grow. So there's all this missed potential here.
Unless the government is literally squeezing you like a lemon. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate it so much.
But the changes to income tax will cost about 49 billion. which of course we've costed in other things. Corporation tax would introduce a zero rate for the first £50,000 of profits, thereby removing approximately 95% of companies from the regime, restoring the 19% rate above that threshold with an aspiration of 15%, which would make us very competitive in the rest of Europe.
Ireland's still 12.5%. We're still.
I know, but we've got lots of things that Ireland doesn't have.
That's true.
So we can charge a little bit more and still be quite attractive. And phase out various sector-specific levies, estimated at costing 41 billion.
Now, that'll be the price of fuel then.
Price of fuel?
Yeah, I imagine they've got sector-specific levies on fuel duties and stuff like that. Beer.
I would presume
I'm
so. I don't
know.
We'll need to drill into the weeds of that one. I mean, that was calculated by The Economist, so it's a bit above my pay grade there. But the important thing here is that this is a way of liberating small businesses from taxes whilst also making corporations pay their share at the same time.
So the massive corporations who make millions and billions of profits, they still have to pay tax. The little like corner shop or the woman who's running her own little nail salon and stuff like that, she's probably fine.
Yeah, and so the idea is that hopefully this will start regenerating the British high street in a way, because it will at least mean that the meagre profits they do make aren't taxed into oblivion and reduced down to, below the running cost of the business.
And there's literally no reason not to do this either. Because if they grow into big businesses, great, then they pay taxes.
This will make a lot of people happy. Abolish small taxes, abolish stamp duty in all its forms, approximately 18 billion. Inheritance tax, approximately 9 billion. Insurance premium tax, approximately 9 billion. Air passenger duty, approximately 4 billion, and emissions trading scheme, approximately 3 billion, and the climate change levy, which is 1 to 2 billion. So this is in part to simplify the tax system, and having all these small little taxes just makes it more difficult to navigate the tax system and makes people have to rely on lawyers more and more, which is an additional expense to most people and businesses.
And
as well as the fact
accountants, and now they're making it 4 times a year. They want to absolutely screw you with the paperwork.
Mad, isn't it?
Disgusting.
And now people will be able to buy and sell houses without stamp duty. They'll be able to pass on their money to the next generation. So you're not constantly squeezing families of their money.
That's criminal. That's just full-on communism, inheritance tax.
I agree. Yeah, it's one of the most vile taxes going, and I hate taxes.
Yeah, I stand to inherit nothing, and I just morally find it abominable.
Stealing from the dead and grieving, isn't it?
I worked my entire life. I paid all these taxes, and after the pennies I got off, I saved, and then I bought a house, and the government's like, "Yeah, now you're dead. I want some of it." It's like, no, you've already.
Yeah, and if you've paid off the mortgage, you bought it. It's just like it's criminal.
Yeah, it's absolutely criminal. I hate it.
So we're also going to raise the annual allowance substantially for capital gains tax. To 20,000 to 40,000, which is estimated to cost just 0.7 billion. But that's good. It means that people can beat inflation if they wish. And then VAT, reduce the standard rate to 18% and raise the registration threshold to 150,000, which is a combined costed estimate of around 22 billion.
I find myself incredibly sympathetic to like the Austrian School of Economics. And so, on paper, it'll be like, this will cost this much, it'll cost this much. But what you're not, and you can't really account for, is what the economy will become when all of the things holding it down are suddenly alleviated. Right? Yes,
well, you forgo short-term taxes for long-term benefits.
A general growth in the economy that pays more taxes overall.
But one final thing I did want to read, because a lot of this sounds very Austrian, as you say,
but
very free market, and so do I. I mean, I've read a lot of these economists to death and know it all inside out. But one thing I wanted to alleviate, because there are things to do with this.
Are we a globalist economy?
No. No, we're not. And if you'll humour me doing a bit more reading, I'm sorry. Just these 2 paragraphs and then I'll wrap up. We believe that the free market is the most effective mechanism ever discovered for maximizing the wealth of nations. Insofar as they generate wealth, free markets are therefore instruments to national flourishing, which, given the economic data to support it, impossible to argue against. But a nation is first and foremost a home, not a business. There are times when it is vital to put matters of national security and self-sufficiency above purely profit-seeking considerations, especially when it means ensuring the survival of our nation and her people. So there are lots of areas, and we're working on bits and pieces to do with this. We import 90% of the things that we use to make our weapons from China. 95% of our fertilizer comes from Ukraine and Russia.
Companies, the bloody water suppliers, the trains.
Steel is another one.
Steel.
Yeah.
There are loads of things that are actually kind of like mission critical that are currently owned by foreigners. Mm-hmm. Why do we allow this?
I initially wrote in a section all about these sorts of things, but we thought it was best left to another paper specialising on it. But we've mentioned...
we've talked about it.
Yeah. So it carries on to say, nor would we hesitate where necessary for the retention of critical supplies like food, energy and medicine to pass new laws and invoke existing ones to strengthen our resilience as a self-sufficient nation amid intensifying global volatility. And that's one thing that we're not hearing enough, is self-sufficiency. Yeah. When was the last time we heard a politician say anything about that? Never.
Well, there's some brief chat during COVID because of supply lines, and it all went away again as soon as that went.
So it was just for that one niche thing, though. So final paragraph, a restored Britain government would not only consider the implications of our economic policy on national security, but also their impact upon society. No modern society thrives without strong families and cohesive communities, trusted to govern themselves, engage in free enterprise, and pursue the natural rewards of hard work. Confidence in the enduring nature of these arrangements is thus essential. There are many factors that build such confidence, but the core ones are social order, the rule of law, the absence of arbitrary and unpredictable raids on livelihoods, reasonable taxes in exchange for accountable government, and modest regulations, which is
completely reasonable.
I agree, because I wrote that.
Completely the antithesis of what Labour want, but completely reasonable.
So yes, I suppose after outlining the plan, we want to liberate you from paying as much tax, remove a lot of the regulation, which we will be talking about in time. But also, we're not naive to the fact that if you're completely free and open as a market, that leaves you vulnerable in terms of national security to being taken advantage
Predatory
of.
Foreign countries who
exactly.
Like that.
And you've got to be aware of that. You've got to identify
China,
the key industries.
Russia.
Yeah. And actually there was an act passed in 2021 that already gives us the power to intervene in these.
Right.
It's just about applying it with a firmer hand, I think.
Yeah.
So, were Restore Britain to get into the government, that is what you would expect.